Hello. Hello. Samani, can you hear me? It's clear? Can you hear me? Sure.
Welcome back. How was dessert? Was it good? Enough sugar, coffee? You ready for the next talk? Okay, great. So our next speaker is Dr. Nabil Solomon, who is a child psychiatrist and has been practicing for 30 years. He's a servant here at St. Peter and St. Paul Church and serves in a Coptic Fellowship adult class on Sunday morning after the liturgy. He has been and still is discussing the Gospel of St. Luke, and guess for how many years? 6 years. So I hope today his presentation will not take that long. He's going to talk about effective parenting and defective word. With that, welcome Dr. Nabil.
Thank you. Thank you, man. How is the day going so far? Good? Temperature is okay? When you come to Santa Monica, that's what you risk. Some sunny weather and maybe some humidity. So we have the AC on and the windows together in the same time. Don't ask me why. Two announcements before we start. One, the bookstore is open. We have beautiful, nice books that just arrived and nice icons. And maybe in the break you can stroll around to find what you like. Also, in the folder, you were given index cards and pens. The purpose of a card and a pen is to write your questions. Okay? You can give it to Iman or Jacob. They will be passing by, collecting it. You don't have to put your name. We do not need your social security number or the credit card. We'll ask you about that later on. We have from 5 to 6 panel Q&A. Dr. Yosri, Dr. Maggie, and myself will be sitting here answering your written questions. So this is your chance today and now to write any question you have about the whole day, about any topic today, or about any topic related to marriage or parenting. During the whole day, Abuna James talked about what? One word. Talked about what? Huh? Anger. Dr. Yosri talked about what? One word. Sexuality in marriage. Sex, intimacy. And Dr. Maggie, in one word, talked about what? Selfishness. And the whole day is the state of marriage, of our union, the state of our marital union. So these are 4 challenges that face our state of the union at home. 1 is anger, number 2, sexuality, number 3, selfishness, and number 4, parenting. What we are going to do with our children? If you look around, if you have children, 99% of the parents, they raise their children by nothing. If you ask Mr. Joe, come here, okay? You have a boy and a girl, okay? What you plan? What you are going to do with them? I don't know. I'm going to feed them, send them to school, take them to the doctor. Yeah, of course. I understand. What is your compass? What's your direction? When you have a challenge, when you have a problem, there is no book you go back to. What's going to happen here? Most of the answers are, I don't know, by intuition, by good intentions. Unfortunately, that's not good sometimes for raising healthy children. So today we're going to talk about effective parenting in a defective world. Do you think the world we live in is a defective world? Raise your hand if you agree. Okay. If you feel it is defective, where do you think the defect is coming from? Why are we calling the defective? We're just paranoid and we have a martyrdom complex and, you know, we are miserable Christian in this world. What can we do? Why we're saying it is a defective wall? After heavy meal and sweets, I like to make it interactive so we don't fall asleep. Yes, Henry. From the fallen world, original sin. But in actuality, okay, in reality, as a parent, what am I facing nowadays that makes me feel it is a defect? Theologically, what you're saying is correct. Yeah, but in reality, yes.
So the value system of the world is arranged, it's not set.
Okay, the value system that we hear about and in the media is not something that coincides with our Christian value system. Yes?
Neglecting the presence of God, or denying it.
We're denying the presence of God, of course. Nowadays, actually, if you say, I believe in God, that people might not like you. Well, at this point. Yes, Dr. Nazir.
We have no control over what our kids get exposed to. Outside our home, when they go to school, for example, and even at home, they have iPhones and iPads and internet. So, YouTube and all of the social media. So there's no way that any parent can have 100% handle.
Okay, it's basically, we do not have full 100% control over what our children are exposed to. كان في حد رافع هنا؟ أيوه.
There's no defined line now between good and bad. Everything is okay.
Everything is okay, and the boundaries are blurred, and the gray is in the middle safe area, and don't go to an extreme that way or that way. Anthony? Yes, external factors that affect our parenting. So today I'm going to talk about 4 main topics. The first one is the goal of Christian parenting. Because if you don't have a goal, if you leave today from here at 6 p.m. and you are not, I ask you, where are you going? Which freeway you take? Usually people say, I'm going to the valley, I'm going to take 405, exit north, exit on blah, 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 right? If you don't know where you're going, it will not matter if you lose your way. So the goal of Christian parenting, because we send our children to a time we will not see. This is the extension of our existence. After we depart and go to heaven, hopefully our Christian children will carry on what we implanted in them for many, many years. What is the goal of Christian parenting? Sometimes my wife accuses me of flights of ideas. Do you know what that means? Anybody a psychiatrist or counselor or psychologist? Okay. Flights of ideas is we're talking about a subject, and then, so I'm going to make you the judge of that. Father Isaac was the judge in the competition, but you're going to be the judge of my behavior. So sometimes I like to talk about the 100-meter relay race. Focus with me. Who can describe for me the mental status or the behavior of the guy in the front with the yellow shirt? Raise your hand, look at him, tell me, what do you see? What do you read in his behavior? Yes? Trusting that the guy behind him is going to give him the baton. Correct. What about the facial expression? What do you see? Henry? He's looking forward, ahead. Okay. What else? He's what? He's concentrating. There is a mental focusing when the baton is going to touch his backhand. Correct? Anybody? Yes?
Power and ready.
He
has power and ready.
He has power and ready. Okay. What do you think about the guy in the back with the red shirt? What do you read into his body language? نريز our hand بس كلنا adults بس للتنظيم. Yes.
I did my part. I just want to finish giving it to the one after.
Exactly. And he's extending his hand. Okay. Just want the one.
Almost there.
So he can, the one in the front can take it and carry on. What else? Raise your hand so I can see you. Yes. The front or the back? The back is tired. The front is tired too already. And he hasn't run yet. Yes.
He's focusing on the one in front of him.
Yes. Excellent. He's focusing on the one in front of him and he's going to handle the baton. Look at the next picture. That is the exact transfer, exact moment of transferring the baton. Unfortunately, the baton can be lost in the process of transfer. You never find anybody while running, he loses the baton. That never happened. In sports, in the 400, 800 meter relay race, the baton can be lost only in the transfer process. Do you think my wife is correct? Huh? She's always right, but in her opinion about the flights of ideas. Do you think in this situation she is correct? What's that? You don't want to get in the middle. Very safe guy, non-confrontational. يعني اروح اقول لجانت my wife نبيل ويسا قال ويحصل اشكالات. And I think this is my point. My point is this is the goal of Christian parenting. Transferring the Orthodox faith to the next generation. In some families, when our children are lost to the world, when a teenager is becoming outside of the faith, the transfer did not happen properly, for whatever reasons. We can write books about that. But my point is, if you are a parent, your goal in life is properly to transfer the Orthodox baton to the next generation. That is the goal of Christian parenting. Number two, how can we do it? Theory and talks and preaching is very easy. How can I implement it? As a parent, what can I do in my power to make sure I am transferring the baton? If you want to leave today from the whole day with anything, I want you to go home with this. By the way, in the folder, you have two writing possibilities. One, in a notebook, if you want to take notes for yourself, something you feel you want to remember later on. And number two, as we said, the index card for questions. Be a role model yourself for Christian life. This is 90 to 95% of Christian parenting. Of course, Dr. Nazih mentioned the point of we have no complete control over the surroundings. That's correct. But God is going to ask me, what did you do with what you could have done? He's not going to ask me what's happening in Hollywood and, with the movies and the social media and all that. He's going to ask me, at your home, did you manifest a real Christian behavior as a father/mother? And did you give a good role modeling for the Christian marriage? Some parents think, if I am a good Christian father, that by itself will do it. That will not do it. And sometimes in churches, we have an epidemic of people, either marriageable people, not marrying or marrying outside the church. Why? When you take the history, you will find that the role modeling of the Christian marriage they have lived at home did not leave a positive impact. So number one, be a role model yourself. Number two, work on enriching your relationship with your spouse. Some parents separate between their parenting skill versus their spousing skills. And actually they are the same. The child stands on a floor, steady floor like that, representing the relationship between dad and mom. If you give the child $1 million presents every day, but the relationship between dad and mom in front of his eyes is wobbly, is shaky, his self-esteem will be like. By the teenage period, he has to seek comfort outside the home, in drugs, gangs, obnoxious behavior, sexual relationship outside of marriage, legal problems, and so on. So if I want to raise my child in a healthy way, look to the right and look to the left. Don't look down only. It is a comprehensive picture. Cultivate Christian habits at home. Do we read the Bible sometimes together? Do we pray before dinner? Do we pray before we go to sleep? It does not have to be a very long and labor and boring and 2 hours prayer. If I spend 5 minutes, that's good enough. I am cultivating a habit. It becomes a normal system at home. Do we go to church together? Do we go to communion as a family together? This is all are implanted in the memory and in the subconscious of the child. So you don't have to preach much Christianity in talks and sermons if you are the sermon yourself. How is the awakeness level at the end of the day with the food and the dessert? They asked, when I see you half asleep, we say a joke. Is it okay? Okay, Abuna? Abuna give me a certificate, stamp it, said that. So I'm okay. They asked a Sunday school child after the classroom on Sunday morning, "Hello, Habibi, how you doing?" Good, chubby Mark, 5 years old, very cute little boy. Okay. What did Christ say about marriage? So the child said, Christ said about marriage, "Father, forgive them because they don't know what they are doing." That was his opinion. Another factor under how to implement Christian marriage: understand the importance of communication among family members. About 5 years ago, we had a marital seminar here in the church. The whole seminar was about communication, an area we do not pay attention to and we have no time for. In my opinion, I've been a psychiatrist for 35 years. I had seen a few thousand cases. Number one area in conflicts in marriage is sexuality. Number two is communication. Other areas, selfishness, as we heard, anger, addiction, in-laws, hobbies, blah, 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 money, work, and so on. The most two common areas of causing conflicts in marriages in general are sexuality and communication, or the lack thereof. So for us, we need to be aware of its importance. And understand the importance of Christian parenting. Is it important? Yes. I want to show you what St. John Chrysostom said. He was born 348, went to heaven 407, and the church teaches us when we have one of the fathers, I need to know 3 facts about him. When was he born? When did he go to heaven? And what language was the apologetic, sorry, what is the word, Yabuna? The father's writing? Patrology writing. Patrology is the writings of the father. So he wrote in Latin. He was not Latin, but the language he wrote in was Latin. He said, our children are given to us as a clay given to a potter. We know what a clay is, and we know what a potter is. Our main responsibility is to mold them into a Christ-like character, period. Every other responsibility is secondary. You have other responsibilities, yes. Jobs and hobbies and financial investment and your friends and your extended family. All these are important. But if I fail in this one, the other areas are not going to help me. Okay, I want somebody to complete this verse for me. This is from St. Paul writing in the 1 Timothy 5:8. If anyone who does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has blank and is blank. Raise your hand if you have a guess. You don't have to say it in verbatim. But a very dangerous statement. One day I discovered that about 20 years ago. I was planning for another seminar. I remember I could not sleep the whole night. Yes? قد أنكر الإيمان. That he has denied the faith. And is, yes?
Worse than a heathen. And it's supposed to be for his own OW, not one, for his one. For his own OW. You said it right, it's just not written properly.
Okay.
Just so that people don't get confused with the
Oh, own. Oh, it's yeah, I see that. That's my accent. Thank you. His own, that's correct. And especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith. He can be a deacon. She can be a high school teacher for the girls. But she has denied the faith and is worse than the unbeliever. The atheist in the street is better than him. Very shocking, but that's what St. Paul said. Okay. Now we talked about what? The first one? What's the first title? Remember my wife and myself when we have a disagreement? What we talked about? The goal. عايزين تاخدوا coffee break؟ مش هنخلص النهارده كل شوية ننزل تحت. The goal of Christian marriage. What is the goal of Christian marriage? The baton. This. Give it to the next one. Okay. How can I apply? Number 2. How can I apply Christian parenting? We had 6 points. I will send you the slides. We'll put all these together and we'll send it in an email to all the participants who signed up. Number 3. How to maintain home purity in a sex-saturated society. You had a question? Yes. الآيات كتب بالعربي بتاعت بولس بتاعت بولس بتقول الذي لا يعتني بخاصته. خاصته is the extended family. Aunts or uncles or in-laws or dad or mom. ولا سيما أهل بيته. أهل بيته wife, husband, wife و children. ماله دوت فقد أنكر الإيمان وهو شر من غير المؤمن. مؤلمة. Do you think we live in a sex-saturated society? Tell me how. How did you come to this conclusion? ما هي شبعان يعني saturated.
No, no, I mean like شبعان في بيتكم. يعني الناس الشبعان بتدوس العسل زي ما بنجيب
انا بتكلم على society. لما بنتكلم ان السوسايتي sex saturated دي sociological terminology دلوقتي، يعني دي مش واحد Coptic narrow minded person very traditional ومخه مقفل وفاب وجاي، لا ده في كتب السوسيولوجي that's how they describe it. Yes.
Media, music, pictures.
The media, the music, the pictures, right, the video clips, Hollywood culture, and the dissociation of the family. واحد sociologist قال in the year، كلام يا جماعة يعني احنا ربنا يكون معانا ويحافظ علينا كلنا، قال in the year 2050 32 years from now some of us might be alive, and if we are not, we hope the people who will carry the baton will be there at that time. He said in the year 2050 if the people see a family walking on the promenade consisting of one man and one woman and possibly children, they will laugh. It will be the abnormality. The traditional family, as we had known it for thousands of years, it will be an abnormality. Okay. The biblical concept of the body, and this is what I like to teach our children, my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. لأن ساعات في in youth meeting يجي يسألك يقول لك إيه؟ Do you have in the Bible any verse telling you don't to take cocaine? No, I don't have a verse. Yeah. Do you have a verse in the Bible that said that the hookah and the shisha is not good for you? No, the Bible didn't tell me that. But the Bible gave me a general concept. My body is a temple for the Holy Spirit. I respect my body and I respect the bodies of others. If we understand that, all the commandments will make sense to us. At home, please discuss this word. Do you see it? My computer is very bashful. Yeah. And I think the computer was raised in a conservative family. Right. So the S is SEX. I have a person in counseling. He tells me this. He's in mid-40s. I left my home from a Coptic family. I left my home at the age of 32. Till I left my home, the S word was never mentioned, discussed, open for questions. Huh? And I think it is time for us to change our attitude about that. Some people might feel uncomfortable. I understand. I used to feel uncomfortable. But in a sex-obsessed society, in a sex-saturated society, if I keep my silence, I am leaving my children to the other alternative that's available outside.
I'll share a funny story.
How long? Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay.
He knows I can talk forever. Okay, so for those of you that don't know us, we have 3 children. We have a 16-year-old girl, a 13-year-old girl, and a 3-year-old crazy boy. You'll see him running around. He has the FIFA green outfit on. And he's like the shriek, like or the flash or whatever. We'll run past with him. And we've been married 21 years. And so I'm very big on that, on talking, especially with my older 2 girls. And I
Nice comment. Yes. No, I can see her hurrying up, trying to put much info in an important topic, and it is all over our homes. Sometimes we look the other way. Sometimes we are uncomfortable with the S word. This is why I don't want to open the subject. And also, we will see that some people say, and anti-Christian people will say, the Bible is a sex-negative book. And we will see if that's correct or not. So our point is not to talk about sex. Our point is to understand healthy sexuality, spiritually and physically. There was, nowadays children are so advanced. There was a 5-year-old boy who asked his dad, Dad, where did I come from? So Dad said, what? He said, where did I come from? Dad said, where did you come from? What do you mean, where did you come from? Okay. I said, Dad, I did not exist, and then I came. How did I come to existence? So Dad said, we found you advanced. Oh, okay. So Dad, that's me. How about you? What do you mean? How did you come along? How did you come into existence? So Dad said, the stork brought me to my dad's home. Oh, I see. How about my grandpa, your father? So the father said, your grandpa, we found him at the front door at the house. So the 5-year-old boy said, oh my goodness, you're telling me that for 3 generations, nobody came in the normal way? حاجة عجيبة. Christianity is not anti-sex, it is anti-irresponsible sex. We are going to go over the verse. Dr. Yusri mentioned that. Beautiful verse. When you go home, please, take your Bible, go to the Old Testament, go to the Proverbs, chapter 5. This is irresponsible sex. Dr. Yusri went through it because he had very rich material, but irresponsible. My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Lend your ear to my understanding. For the lips of an immoral woman drip honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Somebody might think the Bible is anti-sex. No. Go to the same chapter 5. This is biblical terminology, is not symbolic. Is not like the Song of Songs. Okay? Because the context is physical union between a man and a woman in marriage. Drink water from your own cistern and running water from your own well. Let your fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of your youth. As a loving deer and a graceful doe, let her breasts satisfy you at all times, and always be enraptured, some translations, be intoxicated with her love. If somebody comes and tells me the Bible is a sex negative, I don't think this person has a complete understanding. Saint Clement of Alexandria, he departed in the year 150, wrote in Latin. He said that how can we be ashamed of talking about organs God was not ashamed of creating? St. Paul called the sexual organs that has greater honor, from which life comes. Ecclesiastes 9:9 said, live joyfully with the wife whom you love. Our great patriarch Isaac in Genesis 26:8, Isaac is showing endearment to Rebekah, his wife. The Bible is a poetic book, polite book, so endearment can be kissing, hugging, caressing her hair, saying her nice words, positive words. And of course, Isaac is one of the patriarchs. Father, whom do we have intercession from Father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In the Old Testament, a newly married man should take 1 year vacation from his military duties. To do what? To be on Facebook? To read the newspaper? To go to the gym? To fight with the wife? Maybe he did or does, but the Bible didn't say that. To bring happiness to his wife. Is only heterosexual, monogamous, marital sexuality healthy for the society? The science is saying yes. The science, the Bible, of course, is saying yes. The science is saying yes. I will send you this. This is Dr. J.D. Unwin. He's a British sociologist. He studied AD 80 civilizations to see where all these civilizations have gone. All the, you know, the Roman, the Phoenician, the Greek, the Persian, and the Ptolemy, what you call it? Many civilizations, they have ended, they vanished. How did they vanish? They vanished or disappeared when we started to play in the structure of the family. I will send you that in the email. So for our children, I am afraid if we continue being silent and have a negative concept of sexuality, that we're creating a schism, a division in their psyche. Because they come to the church, they hear purity, chastity, monasticism, virginity, and all these are beautiful virtues, and we all should struggle to attain them. And for monasticism and celibacy, this is given from the Lord. You cannot attain it on your own. Some marriages, even in the Coptic Church, in rare conditions, are celibate marriages by mutual understanding, mutual consent. But the child leaves the church in Sunday school, and he goes to school and to the Facebook and the social media, and he sees, she or he sees and hears, and you know, in the school everything is okay, everything is allowed, and they get confused inside their head by our silence who are not helping them. So these topics have to be explained, explored, discussed at home, in Sunday school, and in youth meetings. The epidemic of porn usage or addiction, that was a topic I gave in one of the churches. It is not a secret to know that this is have invaded our homes. Basically what Dr. Nazir said, it is in your pocket. In the older times, it used to cost money. Nowadays, it's free. I was talking to Dr. Yusri a few months back about a child that mom brought to the office, 12 years old, who does not go to sleep except after he goes into his room, locks the door, goes to the iPad, and that is the way he goes to sleep. So mom got suspicious after about 2 years. That's not a normal behavior. And she consulted one Sunday school servant who is tech-savvy, and she found that every night he visits certain sites. So I was talking to Dr. Yusri, you know, at the age of 12. That's very sad. So he assured me that he has a case of a 6-year-old boy who is porn addict. It's very sad what's happening in the society nowadays. So for us, we need to guard ourselves, our visions, and we need to be a role model, as we mentioned, and to be vigilant and aware what's happening to our children. One definition of sin, and that applies to pornography or drugs: a false promise of happiness. The drug addict is like that. The little voice comes in his head or her head How about an injection of this, and a puff of this, and a pill of this, that will give you happiness, that will give you energy, that will make you hallucinate and see stuff and see music, and okay? And after the effect is over, the person is feeling miserable and his or her health are destroyed. So one definition of sin, and that's what happens in pornography, it is a false promise of happiness that never materializes. This is a nice book. I like every person to have it. I have it. I read it a few times. Every young man's battle for young men. If you are a Sunday school servant or a father of teenagers, you have to read it. And it teaches us how to guard our vision. We, the male species, we get in trouble because of our vision. If we cannot control it, that's when we get into problems. For the women, there is also every young woman's battle, how a young woman can guard her auditory, her ear, and her fantasy. So how can we as parents and servants resolve their internal struggle? By, again, what? To be what? Can you read it? That's right. I will not be a good role model if I am sitting on the computer all day long in the afternoon at home. Or I go to certain sites even if my children don't know, because I allow these kind of things to come to my home. Enrich your relationship with your spouse. As we said, this is the foundation where the child is standing. This is the baseline, the relationship between dad and mom. Open the subject when appropriate, as Caroline said, and you will feel that from the children that they are ready. They are asking questions. They are giving comments about somebody pregnant in the family, and so on. Explain why the Lord asked me to keep sexuality opposite to societal messages only for marriage. And it is very important for us to always mention that even if I mess up, leave the door of repentance open. So the child or the teenager is not going to go into despair and depression that I messed up, I did not meet my parents' expectations, and now I am doomed. We are all sinful by nature, and we have periods of weaknesses, including myself.
Could you explore more on number 4 and how to explain that to again?
Okay. Yeah. One example is research done by the PhD. The PhD is a British guy, non-religious. We don't know his religion. Maybe he's an atheist. He just wants to have his degree. So he got all the documents in history about all the civilization. And the PhD was 2 parts. One part, where did this civilization end? Okay. Why? Why did they end? And how? And that's what he found. The end when the family structure, the nuclear family structure, one man and one woman, was possibly children, we start to play with. And that's what's happening nowadays in the Western world. Then he moved on to see why does the civilization end when we start touching the basic foundation of the family. And he came to the conclusion that when the civilization is building itself, okay, the husband is willing to build for the family and work hard and build the future, pay attention to the spouse, and both of them are paying attention to the children. When the sexual liberty movement comes in, people are attracted to their own desire at the expense of the marital relationship or at the expense of what's beneficial for the children. And by dissolving the family structure, I am taking one block from the wall of the society and throwing it away. And another family, divorce, throwing it away. another family break up, taking another stone away from the wall. And another family living together, taking another stone away. And nowadays, homosexual marriage, another stone away. At the end, the wall has to collapse. It cannot sustain itself. This is a very secular study, has nothing to do with religion. So that can be one of the answers. Number two, also answer, if God is allowing sexuality to be a free expression of my feelings, he could have said that. And when he advises me about something, he is advising me for my benefit, even if I don't like it. Our normal tendency is to rebel. A teenager boy who is full of testosterone, full of hormone, he doesn't want anybody to tell him, guard your eyes. Every young man's better. Okay? Keep yourself pure for the marriage. And actually, nowadays, the word love equals lust. But because it's so repeated in the songs, I love you, I love you, I love you, we need to stop and think, what does love mean? And sometimes boys put young women on pressure that if you love me, you do whatever I ask you to do. Of course, love in the mature sense of word is give and take, and sexuality, when you play with it, take it away from the marital union, we do not get good social results. How to maintain family, this is the last point, and we'll stop. Please write your questions, we are going to collect them, and you'll have 1 hour to answer them on this subject or any other subject. You don't have to put your name, unanimous questions. How to maintain family connectedness in a tech-obsessed world? Do you feel that technology had affected family relationships? If you say yes, raise your hand. Tell me how. What do you see in your home or other homes? Yeah, it's all over now. Yeah. Tell me, see how it's affecting. Yes.
Everybody's on the phone and there's no communication.
Excellent. Everybody is on the phone with somebody else or doing something, and there is no intrafamilial communication. That's what he's saying? Intra meaning inside. Okay. Yes, Henry.
Since you can't take the tech out, you have to be more tech savvy as a parent. I think you have to be involved into their lives and understand, explain to them how they're using tech, that it can be in front of them. And when you feel like there's a level of maturity and a level of responsibility, then they can start little by little being on their own.
Okay.
You have to go to their tech with.
I agree with you. Henry is saying, since you cannot take the tech out, the technology is going to even become more advanced than what we have now. So you have to be tech savvy. You have to be learning a little bit about what's happening. This is a humongous field, but at least enough to learn enough to know what's happening with your children. Is what it's saying? To know what's happening with your children. Anybody else? Are we having family disconnectedness because of the tech movement? Yes.
I think technology destroying the family environment because love is losing communication.
Okay. I don't know about destroying, says Ahmed. It is affecting negatively, of course, the connection inside the family members. And if we are not aware of the effect of that and take a passive stand, it's not going to resolve itself by itself. Dr. Nazi?
One thing we try to do is to provide cell phones to our kids.
Yeah.
Providing cell phones to our kids to communicate with them together. Make sure that they know that there are rules. If they're going to go on any social website, social app or whatever, again, we have to be on it too. Otherwise, it can't happen.
We have to be their friends. They cannot have that app on their phone. And I check their phone regularly.
They get limits.
No, they can't because
That they lose it.
they lose the phone. And then the phone is only charged in our master bedroom.
Mama gave it, Mama will take away. اتفضل حضرتك. علي صوتك بس عشان الناس.
Point regarding what they said right now. Sometimes over control makes the kid kind of once he gets to the age that he can be by himself or he's able to be independent. He wants to express him more, so he's gonna do the opposite.
And I'll explain to you why. It's all about how you term it. I tell them, we love you too much to let the world have open access to you. We love you too much to let the world have open access to you. We have filters, and I tell them, here's my password, here's Daddy's password. All our phones, we have a station. We're on our phones all the time. We work, we do everything on our phones. I communicate with my kids by texting them when they're upstairs because we don't allow yelling in our house.
Dinner is ready.
Yeah. And you have to have social media, not only for the kids, but for us too, free zones. Like dinner, I don't even want to see it. It's upcharging. It's
Thank
already.
Yeah, for the lack of extensive time, I need to finish in a few minutes. Let me see what I have. Do you feel that social media and new tech have contributed to family disconnectedness? You all raised your hand, basically. The digital invasion of our children. This is a blessing I received 2 years ago here in the church in another marital seminar. It is a video lecture on YouTube. If you put that, you will look at my beautiful, handsome face talking for 1 hour about the digital invasion of our children and what to do about it. But in a few minutes, what are the different forms of tech addiction? Anybody? Can you raise your hand? If somebody is addicted to technology, what do you think he or she is addicted to?
Video games.
Video games. Excellent. Of course. I have 2 cases like that. I have a case where the mama came to the 17-year-old boy and she plugged dislodged the computer plug from him وقالت له يا ابني after 12 hours is enough. He attacked her physically. And that is the definition of addiction. What else? Addiction to technology. Social media, excellent. Yeah, I have a married woman. That's how she spends from 1, she wakes up at 12 noon. So from 1 p.m. till 11 p.m. There is no cooking or cleaning. We have no time. By the time you go to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, what else? Yeah. And you see the emails and you look at some video, YouTube videos, you go back to Facebook to see what's happening. That's your 9 hours. Yeah. What else? Addiction. Okay, we have 4 kinds of addiction. Number 1, social media. Number 2, video games. Number 3, pornography. Number 4, gambling. I have 1 case of this. And what?
Online shopping or buying new tech.
Buying new tech to feed into the cycle. ما انت هتجيبها تعمل بيها ايه؟ تحطها for display. العب يا جيمز، اشوف pornography، يا فيديو، يا social media. Look at this. This is Los Angeles Times, June 5th. Apple company, okay, now offers iPhone addicts help. It sounds like an oxymoron. That's how you call it in English. Look at the next one. This just came a few days ago. Video game now is an addiction. That was a big debate among social workers and the psychologists and psychiatrists, because if it becomes a disease, then the insurance has to pay for the treatment. So now the Health World Organization said that on June 19th. What can we do? Very fast. I will take 2 minutes. Number one, be a role model. Number two, set limits. I like what Nazi and Caroline said, because if you don't set limits, children will take over you. If you want to write this down, معاك your notebook. What is, nobody has time to study Christian parenting for 2 years and write books, read books about psychological theories and Piaget and Erickson, and nobody has time for that, except if you are in the field of psychiatry. But for regular people like us, how can I do healthy parenting? Healthy parenting, if you want to write this down, is a thin line between love without spoiling, love without spoiling. If I give the limits away, I'm spoiling them. Not healthy. Love without spoiling, and firmness without violence. Sometimes I will be loving and tender and compassionate and supportive, and sometimes I have to have a stand in this. We mix it with the both, and we think loving all the time is Christian. It is not. Make the atmosphere at home more fun and more attractive than the tech attraction. I was talking to a 15-year-old boy. He comes from school. He takes from the refrigerator a sandwich, and you see him like a mirage. You don't know, did he actually come, or I just I'm hallucinating? It is a few seconds, you know. He leaves the stuff. Refrigerator, sandwich, okay. And when you discuss the family history, I talked to him. He said, Uncle Nabil, there is nothing to talk about. They do not speak English. They like to talk about the drama on the Egyptian TV. And واحد يقول لي إيه؟ في حد هنا ما بيفهمش عربي? Anybody doesn't understand Arabic? Okay. Yeah. يقول لي there is somebody in the year 2018 having the remote control in his hand, watching black and white song for an hour and 15 minutes. فاهمين انا بتكلم على ايه؟ علي صوتي سامع.
What you just said is hitting what I was thinking right now. What the parents telling me right now that I have a 3-year-old daughter, and what you're telling me right now, I will always fight the negativities in this society. I can never build any positivity in her life, like enjoying a movie or listening to music, to read a book. I will always fight her tempers and what she sees outside, and she will always come into house with more negative ideas and just want to imitate everybody outside with technology. Even if she sees me, I'm the one who listens to a song, which is 1 hour, so she will never get this feeling of excitement in life, like reading a book and enjoy having the book in her hand. She will never do this. She will never listen to music with so much fun and feel it's something really unique and she can enjoy it. She will never do this. And can't I convince her in this American environment that she can enjoy this, and this is something at a higher level. It's not something old-fashioned or you just have a taste in things and you will have to be.
So what you're saying, if I can interrupt, you want to join her world instead of her joining your world and showing admiration to Kulthum.
Leave her world, but not imitating just everybody around. Not to imitate the technology, because all her friends are doing technology.
Let's see what we have, because we're running out of time. Fast, yes.
She was talking about like the society we're living here, the American society, but I want to add to it that
The best thing that we can spend on our children is time, not money. They asked one child, how do you spell the word love? And he said, T-I-M-E. Invest in hobbies of their choices. Join their world, something they like. Because I can't say, leave the iPhone, leave the Facebook, leave the social media. Come here, sit down with me in silence. Contemplation time for 2 hours. It's not going to happen. Okay, so I need to create some activities, some hobbies, something they like to do. Communication. Communication. One day, we would like to have communication seminar to come back, because now we have a new crop of newlywed, and I can't overemphasize communication in the Christian home. We're going to stop at this level. I will invite Dr. Maggie and Dr. Yusri to come here. We need a third chair, and Iman and Ya'ub. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nabil.
Iman
I'll
and
come around.
Ya'ub will collect your written questions. Thank you, Nabi. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. ها؟ احنا هنقراها بصوت عالي. يا بتاع السجل يعني؟ اوكي يا. لا انت السنتر اوف اتنشن، لا الكبير بتاعنا ده كلام برضه. هقول قدام هيك ده حقيقة. Thank you. Anybody wants a verbal question? Question. Okay. Now we have about 50 minutes till we finish. Thank you. So, and I will give to Dr. Yossi if you can divide them. Can I start? No? Question here. We will share the, the marriage areas, the boundaries are overlapping. So here is a question about how do you deal with a marriage in which you feel you don't have and never had anything in common with your spouse? This is a very saddening and harsh statement. In Dr. Yossi, of course, Dr. Maggie will take their input, but it doesn't stop us from creating new common areas. The goal of dating and engagement is to find areas common for both of us and discover differences. We will have differences, and then for me to decide I can live with these differences or not. But if I never had any, that doesn't mean I cannot create some. You want to add something? This is a harsh.
I think if I have to add anything, I will go back to. Okay. Can you hear now? Yes. Okay, good. We never had anything in common between us spouses. What do you think? Let me ask you a question. What do you expect from each other when you get married? Please forget that you are going to get married to an identical twin. This never happens. The beauty of marriage and the greatest challenge in marriage
is about we marry the different person. And in our differences, we integrate. We find the other who would make me perfected. There is nothing wrong with having different or different attitudes, beliefs, expectations. That's fine. Let us work on that. And what is the common, factor that works our differences? Love. When we are in love with each other, we tolerate the differences. We work on the difference. We invest in the differences. And that's how we become perfect in each other.
I forgot the question. I feel you can always find something in common with your spouse. You're going to be different people. You come from different worlds. I have to say, as much as I love Peter, we are night and day. We're very different. I'm very emotional, very animated, and he's very calm. He's an engineer. You get it. So, but the commonality is we love each other so much that we want to create a joint team. That we want to create something for our future. So sometimes, honestly, it's very rare that we agree. We talk a lot. We love to talk, but we disagree all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just have a nice debate. It's a beautiful thing. But if you can't find anything in common, Yanni, go for a hike. Figure it out. You'll find something you enjoy. It's hard to hear that a couple can't find something that they have in common. Come talk to me. We'll have a discussion about that.
There's a question here. Okay. The question here, at what age I can allow my kid to have a cell phone? Many questions regarding the technology, what is allowed, what's not allowed. I cannot tell you what's allowed and what's not allowed at your home because you know your kids better than me. But generally, things should be earned. Sometimes we see this phenomenon in the first immigrant generation like us, okay? That some of us are professionals, they are well-to-do, they are business owners, they are lawyers, engineers, physicians, dentists, and so on. And God gave them some money, so they want to give their children whatever they wanted to have, the parents wanted to have as children and did not. And that's not a healthy attitude, okay? So I give according to needs, and I give with rational thinking. What age I can give my child a phone? Not necessarily a smartphone. A child might need to call mom, I finished school, or, I'm going to be delayed, okay? And of course, the children, they put the parents under pressure. I want this, and everybody at school has it, okay? If you decided to buy for your child a smartphone, are you buying it with a plan or without a plan? Meaning, child can get audio, video at any time or only at home. Do you have a filtering mechanism at home? That's another question. Do you have parental control? Do you know your child's password to the phone? If somebody is not doing anything wrong, it has to be in the light. It doesn't have to be in the dark. If I'm doing it in the dark, I am afraid you will know something. So all that is a system of communication. Things get earned. You get rewarded for good behavior. And I don't dump technology on my son or my daughter thinking that's love. And if I do buy them something, I am supervising. كان في سؤال هنا about them resisting, and I understand. سؤال حضرتك فانيلا صفراء. Yes. Yeah. طبعا it is a thin line between the parents supervising what's happening versus forcing myself on them. When they are young, the more they show maturity, the more freedom I give. But still under my observation. There is no reason for the child to have a smartphone or an iPad in his room or in her room with the door closed. There is no reason for this. At night, we bring all the equipments for charging in a common area. Like what daddy is doing, like what mama is doing. تضيفي حاجة؟
Okay. Youth say, God asks us not to do sex before marriage. What if we don't match sexually in terms of sex drive? Why we would suffer with an extremely different person? I even can't know what I am because I never tried. What's your opinion? Okay, actually this question is good for youth groups before getting married, you know. And since we are all married, or I don't know, maybe a few couples here are not married yet. Why do we need to abstain from having sex before marriage in general? It's about dedication of my love energy for the one that I will be in love with. And I have to wait until God would bless this bond between me and my wife. Any sexual experimentation or activity, especially sexual intercourse, before marriage may end up with affecting your future marriage one way or another, or may lower the, if you call it the fun or the excitement. And I always give this example. The time before marriage is the time of fasting. And you fast always before celebrating the feast. If you can imagine, we fast for 40 days or 54 days, 55 days, and then we celebrate the feast on the Good Friday, how it would feel like, you know, when we break the fast before the feast. So our sexual energy is a very special gift from God to be used with my future spouse. This is the wisdom of waiting. But it doesn't mean that if we slipped in any sin before getting married, that this can negatively influence my future marriage, because repentance and confession and going back to God will repair everything. Thank you.
There are a couple of questions about how to communicate with a spouse, how to effectively communicate if every time you sit together you fight. One question is talking about how their spouse goes into silent mode. So I don't know if all of you know about the 5 love languages. I highly recommend that book to talk about how do we show love to our partner and how do we receive it. But in terms of communicating and someone, so in psychology we call it stonewalling, somebody who shuts down and just stops communicating. John Gottman talks about it being one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You can look it up. It's one of the 4 things that can, just cause a marriage to fall apart. So in terms of how do you effectively communicate with a partner who doesn't want to communicate, you have to find the right time. So if you're talking and you find that if it's your husband or your wife and they've just gone blank and they're not listening anymore, stop the conversation. It's going nowhere. So, take a time out. I need a time out. I'm going to wait until you're, with me, present, and then we can talk again. But I really think effective communication can't happen when you're really angry and in the heat of the moment. That's only going to cause a fight and cause arguing. So I think that finding the right time to communicate and being able to sit and explain how you need to be heard by your spouse is really important.
Thank you. Many questions about homosexuality. And some of the questions are about my 5-year-old has a friend in school who is raised by 2 moms, homosexuals. How can I tell her about the correct marriage? You can tell her by many ways. Number one, be a role model. Okay? Because you can preach what is the correct marriage, but it is not lived at home, it will have no effect. Number two, I can say something like, some people, for whatever reasons in their upbringing, they don't get attracted to the opposite sex. Like me and dad, Habibi Baba, ya salam, he's God's presence to me. I adore him. He works so hard to support the family, or the father can do the same thing for the wife. But for whatever reasons in their childhood, they grow up attracted to the same sex. God's original plan is for one man to be with one woman. This is why God created Adam and Eve. Very simple, no judgmental, no harsh statement, what is normal and what other people do for whatever reason. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know. There is another question about a parent who raised a child, but the child, when growing up, she or he departed from the faith and from the church. I feel it is my fault. Is there hope to fix it? The fault and the no fault comes to, did you do what you could have done at that time or not? According to what we knew at that time, we did what we knew best at that time. And that's what God is going to hold us responsible for. We cannot guarantee the results. And sometimes, because of prayers, the person comes back to the faith even after we left earth. So we always have hope. I don't say my son, my daughter became 35 now. No. Anybody can change at any time. I was reading the history of Amba Yusuf, Tilmiz Amba Antonius. He went to the monastery at the age of 60. 60. So we always have a chance to repent and change our behavior.
How do you help your spouse overcome social media, Facebook addiction? And I'm just wondering, what do you mean by addiction? Does it mean that it's becoming a distraction away from the relationship? Is it becoming a priority for the wife that is taking her away from focusing on her marriage? Of course, if this is the issue, then you may need just to confront gently your wife and ask her to get some help to overcome her addiction, like any other addiction. Any addiction in marriage would be a distraction. And distraction means that it's becoming a priority over more significant or other significant priorities like your spouse and your children.
Another question was about love languages. Someone asked, they're saying that one person's love language is quality time and words of affirmation, and the spouse is acts of service. So we're having a hard time bridging this, as I need to hear much more than he can say. How do we do this? I think that if you're talking to your spouse about their love language and they're not willing to hear that you need more of something that they're not giving you, you have to have another conversation. So this is about communication. If you guys you're here, you obviously want to work on your marriages. So it's a good reminder, right? So today in your car ride home, whoever this is, let your spouse know, hey, we just talked about it, and this is something I need more. I need more words of affirmation. I know it's not your default, but I need you to work on that because I'm really missing it. Yeah?
Can I just add
Yeah?
to that? So hers is she wants him to do words of affirmation for her, and he wants what?
Acts of service, I think.
So what I've learned, because surprise is surprise, that's ours, is that
Yeah.
I want words. I can't keep telling him, okay, say nice things to me, say nice things to me, okay? So, but if I meet at the end of it. But what I think is important on my to-do list is totally different than what he thinks is important on my to-do list. So if he asks me in the morning before he goes to work, Caroline, can you please like deposit this check today? Okay? For me, it's like $100 check. I'm like, dude, that is like at the bottom of my to-do list. Like, I'll give you $100 cash if that's what you want. Like, you know, I don't.
I'm coming to your house.
Pick up the kids. I need to like. I've got all this other stuff to do. I have to teach a lesson here. I have to do whatever. So what I've learned, because if all he does is ask me that one thing before he goes to work, and especially nowadays, I just take a picture of it. Boom, it's in our account. Like it's done. I can do it like before he walks out the door.
Yeah.
Okay? But if I do go and I do a bazillion things that day, pick up the kids, be the unpaid Uber, babysit, take them here and there, and he comes home and says, did you get a chance to deposit that? And I'm like, no, I didn't get a chance, but you want to see my to-do list, like all the things I checked off today? What he's asking me is, did you love me enough to take the time to put what I asked you to do at the top of your list?
Yeah. Think about your intention. So if you're doing a million things and washing the dishes, is that for your spouse? Are you doing that as an act of service for your spouse, or are you doing that because that's just what needs to get done? So think about that. Also, I have a patient who he had the same issue. He couldn't remember to do these things for his girlfriend. So I told him, take out your phone. He's an engineer. Take out, not my husband. Take out your phone and put it in your calendar. Every week, Mark, did you put an all-day thing, do something nice for my girlfriend. And he came back and said that was the most helpful thing. And I thought, that's the silliest thing I'm offering this person. But he went back and that was something that was so helpful for him, because even if it didn't cross his mind, the reminder popped up on his phone and he thought, did I do anything nice for her today? Did I, compliment her? I'll just do this one quickly. This is a good one. So, what do you do if your husband doesn't appreciate anything that you have done for him before? You were supportive and encouraged him, but didn't get anything in return. Now you stop supporting because you are tired, and that's all he sees. My question is, what do you mean he didn't do anything in return? So, if you're being supportive of your spouse and you're being loving, but your expectation is that they then do something for you in return, I would say think twice about that. The idea of supporting and encouraging your teammate is not to get something in return. It's just to show love. But does that mean that you should be walked all over? No, of course not. But that's when communication comes into it. But please, do not ever do something for your spouse so that they will do something nice in return. Like, I'm going to buy you a gift so that you can buy me a nicer gift. If you're doing that, you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to do these things out of willingness, out of selflessness, out of something you want to do, but not necessarily so you're getting something in return. And that husband needs to be talked to. You have to have a discussion about the fact that you felt you were being so supportive and encouraging and didn't feel like you were maybe getting that back in return. How to be one team and merge your identities yet not lose yourself. It's sort of what we talked about earlier in the talk, is being part of a team does mean retaining your self-identity. Kobe is still Kobe. We all know him. You know Kobe Bryant. It doesn't matter if you watch basketball or not. You all know that name. He is a basketball player, but he's a Laker. So the thing is, he still has his identity, and he's still part of a team. So you can retain your identity. How do you do that? Retain your identity. You don't have to give away everything that you are. You still, if you like doing certain things, do those things. If you have friends, make time for your friends. It's shouldn't be 100% all day long, 24 hours a day, me and my spouse, we're together all the time. No, there should be time for you to be your own person and him to be his own person. Yeah, that's for Uncle Leo.
Many questions about sex education for children, and at what age we should start, and what to say and what not to say. I cannot tell you the phraseology, but I can tell you the concept. The concept is, at what age that you will know from your child that he or she is interested in knowing. From watching some scenes on the TV, they react. From somebody being pregnant in the family, an aunt or a cousin, from some exploration of body parts for them. So I can start by saying about the beauty of the union between man and woman in marriage, and when the man and the woman are in love, God sends a very tiny, small baby to the woman's belly, to the woman's, what's the word? Uterus is womb. Yeah, the woman inside, and the woman will be pregnant for 9 months. This is why her belly gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and she goes to the hospital for delivery, and we go to the hospital to receive the baby, and we come back very happy. A new family member has arrived. When I say that to the child is not asking me or us as parents to tell me about the anatomical mechanism of sexuality. That's not in his mind. It is a very innocent question because he heard the word, somebody is pregnant, somebody is in nudity on the TV. So the child is out of simple, innocent curiosity. We do not handle this with shame. We do not handle this by suppressing their feelings, or by go ask Abuna, or ask, Sunday school teacher. If we do that, I am sending a very negative message, saying to the child, even if I do not verbalize it, these subjects and these topics, the S topic, we don't talk about it at home, and I am uncomfortable talking about it. This is why I delegate that to somebody else. And we do lots of damage by doing that. Simple answer, you don't have to stutter or sweat, or your hand will shake. It is a curiosity question. If the child keep persisting and escalating the discussion, I can go higher. And we can talk about organs like penis, testicles, uterus, vagina. These are all parts God created in our body. We don't go somewhere to buy it. We don't manufacture it in a factory somewhere. Sometimes we need some help from very simple books. But the fact that I bring my child and tell him the facts of life in one lecture, that's what you hear in the media, that does not work. It is a continuous process where sexuality can be talked about, and more important for me than answering the question in biology is the relationship between the husband and wife. If I show affection in a non-sexual way between the couple, the child is getting the impression that marriage is a happy event. I would like to have one when I grow up. I like to imitate what I saw between dad and mom.
Thank you, and I have a bunch of questions, same subject about sexuality. Yes, of course, this is an extremely important aspect when we talk about marriage and intimacy. This question is about what tips do you have if or when masturbation is a periodic issue in marriage. The person who asked the question didn't specify masturbation by the husband or by the wife, but generally speaking, masturbation is a part of expressing our sexuality one way or another. And we don't judge masturbation or anything in the Bible, in our life, by the words haram and halal, forbidden and not forbidden, allowed, because we don't have anything like that in our Christian belief. There is nothing by itself that's wrong unless it falls under one of these categories. Like when the Bible says, all things are lawful to me, but not all things edify, are constructive. All things are lawful to me, but nothing will master my life or control my life. All things are lawful to me, but not all things are appropriate. توافق. So we have to examine everything according to its circumstances. Like in some cases, very few cases, husbands and wives may resort to mutual masturbation to become gratified by touching each other. And can you consider that a part of intimacy? I think it is. Yeah. I mean, if they are unable to practice full sexual intercourse and they need just to touch itself, this is something very private. Why should I interfere in that? It's none of my business. It belongs to both of them. And that's what we mentioned earlier. What God has joined together, let not man separate. I have no business when they do that. So I prefer that anything like that to be done with mutual consent, whether individual masturbation, bless you, or I mean individual masturbation in some very few circumstances. As long as this is not going to break the marriage or affect their intimate life. Be careful about that. That's why we have to take such things very carefully. A related issue, which actually Dr. Nabil should answer that. Our daughter, 4 years, she humps her teddy bear in bed while sleeping. What should we do? It's like she's masturbating by humping her teddy bear. For children, Dr. Nabil, I think, agrees with me. This is something very normal with kids. Just look the other way. Don't say any comment. You know why? Because if you say anything to your child about such normal act, actually what you do is going to do something called what? Fixation. You actually fixate the mind of the child on that act. When you do anything negative to the child. So the best thing in such cases, just ignore, look the other way. Whenever you see your child masturbate, touch himself or herself, just look the other way. You have a chance, you have anything less? I can say just one thing about, actually two things. There are two questions in Arabic. في السماء لا يزوجون ولا يتزوجون. معنى ذلك أن زوجتي لن تكون زوجتي في السماء. I will translate. أولاد الله اشتهوا بنات الناس فاتخذوا منهم زوجات وأنجبوا عماليق من هم أولاد الله ومن هم أبناء الناس. These are about references to the Old Testament, that something was written in the book of Genesis before the flood. You know, when children of God looked around and they lusted after the girls around them, and that's how human race at that point got corrupted, you know. But that's in the Old Testament. But it doesn't mean that it has anything to do with my marriage or my future inheritance of the kingdom of God. And when we go to heaven, we won't be married anymore. We don't have to. We don't need to be married because we are going to be united with God himself as a church. Dr. Nabil.
There is a question here about why bring kids to this world if it is becoming a real struggle to protect them. Why take this level of responsibility? Things are harder than in the past. It is correct. Things are harder than in the past. That's correct. But sometimes, if we take the thought further, it sounds like the person either having exaggerated anxiety or lack of faith or selfishness that's taking the appearance of niceness. That I'm not going to bring children to the world because look at the world. Because of my love to my potential children, I am saving them from the world by not bringing them. It is a twisted kind of logic. My parents could have said, we're not going to bring Nabil to the world because the black and white TV arrived to the home every day from 5 p.m. till 11 p.m. We cannot bring children to this world. My dad's father could have said, he's not going to bring my dad to the world because my grandfather has just bought a radio. And with the technology that's available at that time, it is very dangerous to have children. So if we take this thought, it is against be fruitful and multiply. Of course, I need to do my homework. Yes, it is harder than in the past. That is correct. I need to pay attention to my children and pay attention to my spouse. If I do this, I am protecting my children 95%. The hobbies, the investing in time, the attraction inside the home, the atmosphere at home that's fun, there is a communication and so on. But I can't keep thinking, look what's happening in the world. Look at the cancer rate nowadays. Look at the gang activities. Look at the freeway shooting. If we go like that, nobody even will leave his home to go to work. Yeah, you might have a car accident. So, exaggerated anxiety, lack of faith, do your part, God will complement your part. Or it just, it looks nice that I am saving the children from this evil world, but the children did not ask you not to come. They are asking you to come. Okay, here is a question. Can I continue? There is another one. I have an 8-year-old boy. I think his behavior is going to be wrong. He is very aggressive, yelling all the time, wants to watch all the time. How can we fix this behavior? The behavior of the children is a product of the environment. In another word, the children are reacting to the parents' attitude. So the child that's aggressive, meaning he found in the past his aggressiveness achieves his goal. If he shouts, yells, make a scene, like the temper tantrum for the 2-3-year-old, okay, dad and mom will give him what he wants. It is a negative attention. So if that's what's happening, I need to do 3 things. Number 1, I need to use some firmness. What is healthy parenting? Who wrote it? Healthy parenting is a thin line. Okay, so this one, the love is not a firm love. I need some firmness. فالchild ده أقول له تعالى. Come here. The behavior you just did, that's not acceptable at home. If that happens again, XYZ will happen. Right now, I want you to go to your room, think about what you have done, and how can you avoid that next time. Go! If you're loving only, it's not going to work. If you firm with aggression and violence, it's not going to work. Okay? If you feel the behavior has no reason, he's not sick, he's not angry, he has nothing, biologically needed. So the aggressive behavior, because the behavior succeeded in the past. طبعا we need to apply punishment, not necessarily physical punishment. If that happens again, dad and mom, they need to talk. We're going to take the phone away for a certain amount of time. Or there is no outing next weekend. Something you feel appropriate, consistent with the behavior.
How do you deal with a spouse who doesn't want to talk? I'm going to go out on a ledge and assume that that might be a male who doesn't want to talk. Women love to talk. If it's a woman, I'm just kidding. But how do you deal with a spouse who doesn't want to talk? It's not acceptable. Like, that is not acceptable. If you're married, you have to communicate. It doesn't mean you have to talk as much as I talk, but you have to talk. So if there's something important that you need to talk about, set aside a time. Let your spouse know, hey, Monday night when you come home at 8 o'clock, can we just have a discussion? Yani, 15, 20 minutes? We'll wrap it up quick. I know you don't like to talk, but if there's more to it, you know, that they're not talking about their emotions or they're not opening up and you're concerned about things, again, it takes communicating. It takes talking about, don't you want us to work on our marriage? I need to be there for you. I need to know what's going on. I need you to open up. So, and if that persists, that's a really big issue. Needs more discussion. Yeah.
It depends more on what.
Sorry, I can't hear you, love.
It depends sometimes on what is a good time to talk to the.
It depends on whether it's a good time. Yeah, I agree with you. You're saying you have to find a good time? Yeah, I totally agree. Do not try to have a long emotional discussion if somebody just comes home from work and they're tired and it's not a good time, or the kids are yelling, or pick the right time. Pick the right time to talk to your spouse. You want me to go? Take this one? Yeah.
How do you explain the word sexy to a 9-year-old when she keeps repeating it without knowing the meaning? Number one, I ask her, تعالي يا حبيبي انت قلتي uncle فلان is sexy. What do you mean? Yeah, because I'm not sure I understand what you meant. Can I help you complete the sentence? He is sexy because? Yeah. Number one, I need to understand what's her concept of sexy. Sometimes the children, they want to imitate what's happening at school and they just say the word. Sometimes it is inappropriate cursing words, not part of their character, because that was commonly happening at the school for hours. So it is possible the girl, they say XYZ, actor is sexy, and he's sexy, okay? So the girl is just imitating it. But it is more important for me, what does it mean for her? And we can explore it and have fun with it and play with it. Do you think Papa is sexy? Oh, Papa, he's not. Why he's not sexy? Oh, but you know what? He doesn't have hair now. When I married him, he had hair. So he was sexy long time ago. give him some credit. So I don't have to come from the approach of sin and she is immoral, because that will block the communication. We need to talk about sex at home, and that's what we explored here, because if I don't and I amputate the discussion, then I am pushing her away to listen to her girlfriends at school. And we know what's that going to be like. عايز تقول حاجة؟
I think that's the idea in general. I think I heard someone say about all this negativity from the world and like how we're introducing our kids to negativity. I think a way to look at it is introducing them to positivity, right? Or putting a positive spin on everything, right? Because if they're at home hearing all of the negatives, then they go out to the world and hear all of the positives. There's a disconnect between the house and the world, and obviously, naturally, every human is going to veer towards positive, right? So, and that's kind of what Dr. Nabil was saying. The other thing too is the communication. I think I heard something about oh, I have no interest in what my children are in, right? And also that kind of stems also from no interest between the spouses, right? If the kids do not, you know, I don't think my mom and dad had any interest in what I wanted to do when I was growing up. Natural interest, right? But the idea of trying to figure out what they're interested in, trying and putting an effort into what they're into, then they'll open up to you and they will also connect with you, right? Because mom and dad are trying to, whatever, you know, be interested in what I'm interested in. Oh my gosh, I saw this movie. Oh, what's
Thank you. Dr. Jacob Gerges, my son-in-law.
Actually, just on that point, growing up with two daughters, now the 16-year-old, I never used to show interest in whatever they were. Play with the little dolls and, I'm just, trying to live, be a provider as a father. It was kind of, I just never felt connected with that. They would play with the little dolls and now, they're young ladies. I feel like, if I don't try to catch up, make time to spend with them, taking them to Starbucks, or picking them up from just picking them up from school, back and forth, or going to the gym together, or whatever. I feel like I almost was going to miss that window where they actually now are almost autonomous. They have their friends, they have their lives that they're living, and I'm only like a shadow in the back where dad provides for the finances or whatever we do, but I want to go have fun. I have to hang out with my friends and do less with the family. So it's a really fine line that you want to start. I wish I started earlier, and I didn't belittle it at the time, or thought it was not that important.
Yeah.
Because now it's trying to catch up, it's not as easy.
Yeah.
So it's started earlier.
Can I just add a comment to that? I hate to put pressure on men, but the new research that's come out is that the relationship between daughters and fathers are a direct correlation to their quality of marriage. So that is so important. And the research was done between daughters and fathers, so I can't help you if you're a mother to a son, but yeah, so it's direct. This is really new research that's very important.
Okay, this funny question. How do you deal with your spouse when they are pressuring into doing something you are not ready for? For example, my spouse wants kids now, but I'm not ready. I do want kids. I'm just not wondering, not wanting them now. It becomes a very big argument and it makes me feel horrible. Okay, what do you think? What about this question? What is the issue here? I think Dr. Maggie mentioned that before, and it's an issue of communication, correct? It's not my word against his word or her word, or who is the boss or who is the head or the body or whatever. It's communication in love. This couple may need to learn how to communicate and listen to each other, because if we listen to each other, we need to understand what is the feeling behind that. Why she doesn't want children. I mean, focus on the real issue, on the roots of the issue, not the manifestations, not the symptoms. Okay? So please try to work on your communication. The last question for me is how to deal with our parents who come from Egypt and live with us, being demanding and also very challenging with our marriage, always fighting because of them. Okay, good luck.
That's the answer.
The answer is good luck. Yeah, well, we need to set the rules and the boundaries. And things like that actually are needed to be done before we get married. We help them understand the relationship after marriage. After we separate, a man shall leave and a wife shall forget. And that doesn't mean that we will dishonor them or abandon them or anything. But this means that priorities will change after getting married. So we need to be upfront, assertive, when we communicate with our parents about boundaries. They may get mad at you in the beginning, but still, your marriage comes first. The safety of your marriage is extremely important, much more important than anything else. Okay? Keep these things about priorities after you get married. You get married. Priorities change after you get married. Number one is your spouse. Number two, your children. Then anybody else, your parents, and anybody else. Thank you so much, Dr. Nabil.
Thank you. Question here for the children. How can we take care, how can we take our kids from game to family time? Two things. One, you have to be creative with your spouse about what to do in the family time. Something that's enjoyable by the children. Involve them in the discussion. Where do you like to go? How do you like to spend the Sunday afternoon? After the church, where do you want to do? Make them part of the decision. This is healthier than the decision being imposed on them. Number one. Number two, the atmosphere at home has to be a happy, positive atmosphere. We found that in children who grow up to be video game addicts, it was an escape inward. Since all outside is not enjoyable, and I am not allowed to go out, and okay, so let me escape to a world where I have it on my computer. So the atmosphere at home has to be involving, inviting. It is okay to have some games sometimes. It has to be time limited, and it has to be a positive reward. As I said, you earn it. When it is given to you, it has no value. Yeah, so it has to be by communication. You will be allowed 1 hour in the afternoon, something like that, something reasonable. If you leave this stuff, it just goes from bad to worse. We have only 5 minutes. I will answer one more question, and then you have one more? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. This person is asking, they're dating, they're not engaged yet, and during the course of getting to know one another, we are stumbling upon a major problem. He is more intimate and affectionate, and I am not as intimate and affectionate. How do we proceed in a healthy relationship to marriage? So this comes back to love languages. So it sounds like his love language might be touch, and her love language might be something else. So what does that mean? Does that mean that she should never participate in affection? No. Unfortunately, you have to push yourself beyond your comfort zone, and obviously you're not even engaged, so you know what I set your boundary. Limits, huh? So we're holding hands, yani hugging, you know, what our church says to do when you're courting. But it's not okay that you just dismiss it, that, oh, he's more affectionate than me, so, you know, maybe it's not going to work. That's not true at all. It's a love language. And if you are not naturally an affectionate person, if you're, you know, there are people who don't like to hug, don't like to touch, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to, if you see this person as a potential spouse, you have to think about how I'm going to show him love so that he's going to understand that I do love him. And if his love language is touch and you're not willing, there's your problem. It's not the problem that he's more affectionate than you. The problem is that you're not willing to speak his language, right? So thinking about that.
Thank you. Last question for me, and that's the end of the whole day, and then we have 3 announcements very fast. How to effectively communicate as a couple. When we sit together, we feel like there is nothing to talk about. It is either fights or complaints or demands. What to do? Fights, complaints, and demands are communication, negative communication. I need to counteract this with positive communication. What's positive communication? I know it's 6 o'clock and you're very tired and you want to go home. What is positive communication? Huh? Compliments. That's right. What else? Assertiveness, encouragement. How was your day? That's a neutral question. That's not negative. Yes, in the back. Honesty? Honesty. Okay, what I'm saying is when you have too much negative accumulation of communication at home, you have to be creative in how can I add positive communication. Also, when there is nothing to talk about, we said that part of the growth in the marriage is to have mutual activities. It is okay for the husband to have his own and for the wife to have her own, but you have areas where you overlap. We like both of us to do X, Y, Z. It will create a bonding time, and it will create something to talk about away from the negative communication, the complaints, the demands, and the fights. So counteract that with more positive communication, compliments, praise, touches, non-sexual, hugs, playing in her hair, complimenting him for his hard work, and so on. And create common activities. We're going to stop. We have 3 announcements very fast. 1, we need to collect the evaluation form that's in your folder that helps us to assess the whole day and helps us next time to talk about subjects of your choice, number 1. Number 2, if you still have some energy and you want to continue to go to the beach, we have 4 servants who will take care of that, and they have food for you at the beach, on the sand, and bonfire. The 4 servants can stand up so they can know you. Christine Soliman, Dr. Jacob Gerges, stand up so they know you just. Danny and Julie, they are here? No? They left. Okay. So meet them in the back. They have maps, and it will tell you what to do. The third thing is the servants of the service center, they have been working hard for more than 8 hours. So they are going to bring your precious children to you. I know you enjoyed the day so much. You think if you leave your children to grow in the house of the Lord will be a good idea. But unfortunately, the servants also has other commitments to take care of. So the children will be coming from the back. The under 3 will stay in the room number 18. Mothers and fathers, they go to pick them up. It has been a pleasure to serve you on behalf of Dr. Yosri and Dr. Maggie. Yes.
Just a quick announcement. Next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, One Sister Church in Canada is organizing a seminar, and it's all about sex education to the entire family. And we hope that we end up having some CD or DVD to be available for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for answering all the questions. It was a very informative day. We have a few things Abuna would like to share with the speakers today.
Before we pray, I also like to recognize our brother Fauzi and Fakhri for helping with the streaming, and all the servant that helped with the registration. May God bless all of them. If you have under 3 years old, then the bags are here in the back, in the vestibule of the church and behind, but the kids are in room 18. But the other kids, I think they're already here, so we're going to stand up to pray. Make us worthy, O Lord, to pray with thanksgiving, our Father who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Through Christ Jesus our Lord, and the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Now the love of God the Father, the grace of His only begotten Son, our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ, the gift and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Live in peace, and the peace of the Lord be with you.
We bring the servants.
Yes, Dr. Nabil, I'm ready for them. أهلا بيك،